By fluke, really. It wasn't something I planned at all, but I bought a little investment property, and when I came to sell it, it was empty. And the agent said to me, Liesa, it's never going to sell. Empty properties just don't sell. So you need to stage it. So I hadn't even heard of staging at that point. So I looked it up, and I filled the house with lovely furniture, and it looked beautiful, and hundreds of people came. And the property, which was actually quite a difficult property to sell, sold on the first show day. And that was that. And then, but a couple of weeks later, the same agent called me and said, I know you don't do this, because I was in a completely different line of business then, but would you be interested in staging another empty home that I've got? I want to get the mandate on it. It's been empty for 3 months. And I want to get the mandate, sole mandate, and I want to have an extra offering. So I said, sure, and he staged it, and it sold. And then I realized, maybe there's a business here, and I looked it up online, and I saw that it's huge in America, Australia, Canada, and moving into Europe a lot. And so why not South Africa? And that's when I started the business. So there are 2 types of staging, essentially. Although within that, people can specialize in different niches. But the 2 kinds primarily are an empty or vacant stage, and that's when you fill the house with everything it needs to present it properly to the market. And the other is when people are already living in the house, it's their home, and you want to present it differently to the market. So how does it happen? So the second one, the house where people are living, if somebody contacts me, either the seller or the agent, and together I do a consultation, a walk and talk we call it, and we have a nice clipboard, and we have all the areas demarcated in the house. We walk through the house, and I give them a lot of staging tips that can make their house look fantastic for the market. And I find that homeowners absorb it better if they themselves write down what needs to be done, and then afterwards they can choose from amongst their list what they think is important. Well, funny you ask that, because actually home staging evolved out of a recession in America, and the first person to stage homes, it wasn't even called staging in those days, she kind of coined the term, started in a recession in the 70s, so it's been going for like 40 years in the States, in a recession where you really have to attract buyers to come to your property, and you're fighting for their attention. So the house that looks the nicest, feels the nicest, lives the nicest, and appeals emotionally to the buyer is the one that'll sell. So home staging is really all about emotion. People think that it's about sellers having imagination to see the property, but it's not. It's really about making emotional connections with your target buyer. So you want every buyer to walk in and say, I love that home, I can see my family living there, and that's where I want to be cooking, showering, playing iPad. So in a recession, you really need to up your game and make sure your property, whatever price range, is the one that stands out. No, not at all. I think every property should be staged, because the way we live is not the way we present our houses, our homes for the market. So once your home goes on sale, it's now just a product, like a car, basically. So like you would clean and valet and get the brakes fixed for your car, the same you should do for your house. So whatever level your house is, you should present it for that target market. You'll see in some of the photos we're going to look at that I deliberately chose properties that were not high-end. but still couldn't sell, but did sell once we staged them.
Yeah, and I was amazed looking at some of those photos, the kind of before and after,
Yeah.
of how dramatic the difference actually is.
Yeah. So an example of a very average priced house, this little house, as you can see, this is the front, and the owners, two professional people, small children, no time for looking after a garden, so it really did look very good as a first impression. So here's the before, and then in the after, what we did was very simply we gave it a coat of a very sophisticated colour, the grey, with the white trim. We covered the whole area, which was very sandy, with bark and added some succulents. And on the right-hand side in those window boxes, we added some little pots with flowers. So the whole impression, this is what the viewer, the buyer, saw online. And this particular house, the agent had 20 groups of people come to see it on the first show day, and of course it was sold by the second week. Off the top of my head, I would say perhaps the most important thing is what we call curb appeal. That's simply that first wow impression, because buyers actually buy not with their logic, strangely enough, even though this is probably their biggest investment throughout their lifetime, they buy with their hearts and their eyes. So that you want to make that first impression both online and in person, that a wow, beautiful impression. And that means maintaining and spending some money prettying up the front of your home. So I would put pot plants, definitely. If the soil is poor, put bark, add some succulents, give it a coat of paint, make that impression stand out. So that's number one.
Curb appeal.
Curb appeal, yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Number two, something that's is really important is that when buyers are buying, they're paying for every square meter of the house they're looking at. So they want so the more spacious a home feels, the more likely they are to buy it. And what you'll find is when we've lived in a home for a long time, we have lots of clutter. We have lots of furniture donated from our grandmothers and so on, and it's all over the place, and the place starts to look very cluttered. So you need good traffic flow between all the areas in the room and within the areas in the room. So the ability to move easily through rooms makes it feel more spacious. So definitely another tip is make sure there's good traffic flow.
And I guess that's not just the practicality of moving through the house, but the visual effect of seeing the traffic flow, or the free flow through the house.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, you're already going into aesthetics. Very good, Steve.
There's hope for me.
Yeah, there's total hope. So yeah, you want to have focal points that draw the eye to different areas in the house, the strengths of the house that you want to focus on. So if you've got a long passage, you want a picture at the end so that the eye is drawn through the passage to the end, and it's not blocked by bookcases and things on the side, benches and.
Okay, awesome. So curb appeal, traffic flow.
Yeah.
What's your third one?
That's focal point, but I'll give you a fourth one. Again, as I said, we cook in our kitchens, we buy houses to live in them, we've got all our implements, but for the buyer, what they want to see is a pristine and hygienic kitchen, devoid of appliances and things on top of cupboards. So declutter your kitchen totally and make it look very, very pristine. Okay, so I have two websites. The one is for home staging services in Cape Town, and that's called Home Stages Cape Town. So that's pretty easy. And agents are free to call me for, even agents from outside of Cape Town can call me for approximate costs of staging. And the other is my Home Stages Training.co.za website, where I have a comprehensive course, but I've divided it into two, so that the first half, which is about the design and the psychology of staging would be a great course for agents to do. It's got lots and lots of tips. You don't need to be an interior decorator. So this is a house in a... This seller called me after her home had been on the market for 3 months with not a single offer, and they were ready to have another baby and move on to their new life. And she'd heard me on the radio and called me in. So I gave her an hour's consult, and I explained to her that traffic flow is really very important. And as you can see here, you walk into this room, and on the left you have a sideboard, and behind that you have a children's stool, and behind that you have a dining room table, and there's just so much clutter in this room that you can't actually move easily through the rooms. So I advised her just to clean it out, and this was, as you can see, we also took the photos off the wall at the back and just made it a very clean, uncluttered, spacious area. And she wrote to me later telling me she had 3 offers in 1 week after we'd done this decluttering. I was thrilled for her.